Hey guys, how you doing? Gavin Timms with REI Network. We are back again with another episode. Today is a little random. I've done a little pop-up coaching call, strategy session. I'm going to introduce him here in just a second. Just before we do, if you're interested in working with me, you need any one-to-one help or system setup, go and check out reinetwork.com/apply. reinetwork.com/apply. Follow that link. We'll get on the phone and see if we are a good fit. Anyway, right, I'm going to introduce him right now. Edward Palacios. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Nailed it. Okay, great. So I appreciate it. Ed, you go by Ed or Edward?
Eddie, actually.
Eddie. All right, Eddie. Well, Eddie, I know I just put on the Facebook group, hey, who wants a free? I normally do this like once a month. I do a free strategy coaching call with someone. If someone's available, I call it a pop-up coaching call. So I appreciate you, jumping on that, and kind of here we are. Eddie, I actually know you a little bit because you're in our accountability coaching group, right? And I know that we did a role play a couple of weeks ago on there live. So I'm going to talk about that here in a second as well. But anyway, tell us a little bit about you, what's going on, where you're at, and let's take it from there, see how we can help.
Absolutely. Started my real estate investing about a year ago, but just became on my own. I was actually working as an acquisitions manager for another guy for a few months. So since January, the beginning of the year, I guess New Year's resolution, if you will, now I'm on my own, doing my own thing, trying to build, my systems out with VAs and get familiar with CRMs and all of that stuff. As a little bit more than just investing, there's also logistics in it.
Yeah. Which I think, though, is really good because you've learned, obviously, one of the main skills with being on the phone in an acquisition role. You were doing deals in that role, so that's really good. And I think it's a great way to get into the business when you're new. And I think what you probably realize now, I don't want to speak for you, so you tell me if I'm wrong, but you're probably realizing now, actually, there's more that goes into this than maybe you see just as an acquisition manager. Would that be fair?
Absolutely. Luckily, I knew the owner, so I did see some of the back end, but it is definitely different whenever you don't have that team standing behind you, and it's a one-man show, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think that's good. That right there is good for people to understand, because I have it with my acquisition that have been with me and then they go on their own, right? Which is a natural progression. And I'd say to them, like, if you need anything, I'm here, I'll help you. But this is completely different to what the role you do. You wake up and you focus on one thing every single day. Now you've got 10 other things running, you've got more people involved, and you're trying to pull everything together. It's different beast, and all of them will, have the same struggle, and it's just something you have to work through. Okay, so good. So you've been on your own, you've been doing this. We had our role play. How's things since kind of, we had the role play, we kind of, I wouldn't say picked it apart. I'd say constructive criticism, right? How's that been going?
Definitely better, I think. I was following a script, and really it was a little bit wordy. I was kind of going straight into creative finance as far as that's kind of what my gig is. And then from there, it'll pivot into trying to, because I just got my real estate license, getting the listing. Then as a last resort, I'll kind of circle back and try to get the cash transaction. So now I'm kind of going into it with a little bit of your pointing out. It was like kind of go into it, just have a conversation, figure out where they're at, and then pivot into whatever scenario they need, since I already have those skills.
Absolutely. So just to reiterate, you're exactly right. So before you were going in with, I'm going in with this option, regardless of what they need, this is my option. And then I'm going to go on to this option, regardless of what they need. So what we did was, let's go and engage. Let's find out what's going on there, why, what's happening. And then depending on their answers, we can then go, this is going to best fit. this is going to best fit based on what we're getting back from them, right? So for instance, if they're saying, hey, I just got to sell this thing, I really need out of it, I could really do with the money, we already know that offering them a lease option in 3 years is not going to solve the problem, right? We've got to go cash them out. Can we get some money now? Maybe in owner finance, if we get them enough money, and all them things that then we could try and solve that problem. So yeah, so that was really good. So glad to see that you're applying that. The other thing was as well, as you said, the script was long. So you were doing way too much of the talking, right? And we want to flip that. So everyone listening, you know, while you're talking, you're not gathering information. Your job as salespeople or acquisition people, investors, whatever you are, is to ask questions and get the answers. Get the client talking. 80% of the conversation needs to be them talking and you listening. And I think, how's that been going?
It's definitely closer to that 80-20, them speaking versus me. So that kind of reversed it, kind of getting away from my script. And I know you're more of a outline type person in your philosophy versus a scripted type of philosophy.
Yeah. And that's no secret. That's definitely me. So, you know, I think questions are better and just engage. You know, I always tell everyone, just think of the most natural position that you can get yourself in where you have to have a conversation. And the one that I always use is being at the airport on your own and someone else is at the airport, you're sitting at the bar next to each other and a conversation happens and it flows, right? That is just the same as being on the phone. It's just a conversation. It's natural. You're asking some questions and it is what it is. And try and take that approach and just try and calm down and not try and stay on and be too scripted. You know, I think, and people in the industry will disagree with me on the whole script thing. And it's fine. It's down to opinions, right? Some people need scripts. It's not for me. It's good for structure. But I also have seen a lot of people when they use scripts, if it doesn't go to script, then all of a sudden it's a disaster, right? Yes. It's like, oh, well, no, you're not supposed to ask me that question, Mr. Seller. That's not part of what I'm doing right now.
Absolutely.
So that's the other problem with it as well, is that you can get thrown a curveball and then you're in a bit of a mess. So good. Okay, so what do you need help with now? We've been working on some stuff and here we are. So moving forward, what is it? What do you need?
Well, like we kind of hit on earlier, definitely different being, you know, your own individual where you're handling everything versus just coming in and answering the phones and, you know, hitting your callbacks and doing your follow-ups and things of that nature. So really it's kind of developing those systems, that framework, which I know that's exactly what you guys do. Is what you're into is that whole systemization, automation of a business.
Yeah, absolutely. So give us what does yours look like right now? What have you got going and where are you seeing the holes or the roadblocks?
Absolutely. So I'm grabbing data from a few different places, PropStream, I'm doing some scraping, some things of that nature. And then CRMs are not my best. I'm not the most technical person. But the best one so far that I've found is that REI Simple. One. So I got that probably about a month and a half ago. So kind of learning the systems. Currently, I have a VA making cold calls on my behalf to begin with, FSBOs and absentees and things of that nature, different data points. And then if they show interest at all, then at that point, they schedule it on my Google Calendar. And then, you know, I make that phone call at that designated time.
And where are they making them calls from? In the CRM or outside?
Absolutely. They're a user in my system, so they have full access. Just brought on a guy in Oklahoma who's also familiar and trying to get his feet started. So brought him on as a user as well, so making phone calls on his behalf, and then they get passed off to him.
Got it. Okay. So you've got that. So the VA calls, right? You've got the data in RI Simple, absentee, sell by owner, got it. We've got a VA call in, pre-screening leads. They set them the appointment on the calendar, right? And then the guy in Oklahoma, what is he doing?
He's an acquisitions manager, so
Okay,
his calendar gets filled up by the VA as well.
got it. So there's you and someone else working.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Then what happens?
We make our phone call. I make my phone call. Depending on how that conversation goes, now we need to either do comps or no comps. Okay, when's the follow-up? Let's schedule a follow-up with the person. And then at that point, I'm using a program kind of like Slack. So I put the URL in there, put in my notes, and then my VA actually updates the system for me and updates my calendar for me, so I can move on to the next phone call.
Got it. Okay, good. So you got that system down. Okay, and then so where are you struggling with? So you got a lot of good stuff in place, right? And you've only just started doing it, so now it's repetition, and
Yeah.
and you're going to tweak things. But where do you feel that is the hold up right now?
Volume, I guess, is kind of just making more and more phone calls. Right now, they're putting maybe about 5 or so new leads on my calendar. We're getting to that point where now my callbacks are starting to also fill up my calendar. So I guess that's kind of just, catching up, because I realize that it's going to be a 3 to 6 month turnaround really before these deals start to really come through and turn into contracts.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. What about, are you using the system for automation? Have you got any like autoresponders and things like that set up?
I'm not. I am actually kind of just using the follow-up cold the workflow that's in the system already. But the rest of those types of systems, I'm really not that good with, and we're just now starting to get into a repetition where we can start experimenting and tweaking and doing those things.
Yeah. Sometimes it's actually better, in my opinion, to actually build your own workflow so you understand it, right? So we have one there that you can plug into. But the problem is with automation, when you do that, is if you don't understand what it's doing, that doesn't help you, right? Mm-hmm. Because what happens is that it will start doing triggered items going on and you have no idea. So you just talk to a seller and then all of a sudden, you've clicked to send an automation off and it's gone to that person and it gets into a bit of a mess, right? Yeah. So sometimes, and we can help you with this, show you kind of how to edit them and just maybe start with like 5 basic statuses with 5 basic automations or workflows that you can build. At least when you understand what it's going to do, that's going to work much better for you when you're thinking about it, right? When you hit it cold that it's going to send a text in 30 days or an email in 45 and then another text in 60 and that might be it. And you understand that, and if it's warm, it's going to do this. And I only personally like automation on older leads, right? Yeah. Anything that's hot or warm needs to be on your calendar, needs to be you calling or your acquisition, you texting personalized messages to anything that's warm or hot. I only like automation on the follow-up long term, personally. Right. The other thing is as well is that on the automation of making an offer, you want to make sure that triggers making offer, stop all automation, and then obviously just make sure the alert is there for you to make that offer. Right. So anything of make an offer or following up on a contract, I normally have it to where it stops any further automation at that time, because again, if you're making an offer in a way of, well, not necessarily, because you could be making an offer and then it goes into a cold follow-up, right? But if you're making an offer that's going to potentially get a contract signed, then again, it's more of that manual, you calling your acquisition, personalization, things like that.
Yeah, because that's an active lead at that point.
Absolutely.
Hands-on. That was something that I learned with my last position, because he wanted everything to be automated. And, so nothing fell through the cracks. And I understood that philosophy, but I might be in the middle of a conversation with this person and some random message comes in and kind of screws up the whole sequence, and I lose credibility that I have to fight back again.
Yeah. And that's why I don't like it on warm and hot, for that reason. Very manual. It's me. It's personalized. Because again, your job is to get, your hots to close, your warms to hots, your colds to warms, right? Normally, very rarely, and it does happen, you go cold to hot or cold to close. It can happen if a big situation has changed, but more than likely you start to see it warm and go through the motions. Also, as well, one thing that you could do, you're obviously working, at home, right? Home office. Get a whiteboard, right? Whiteboard, and then you do something like pending contracts, under contract, in closing, right? Meaning you're trying to get your pendings to the contracts in, your contracts into close, and then obviously closed, right? In closing means it's in with a buyer, it's set to close, and you're pretty much just on the final waiting for the signatures and the money, and working through them. So I also like to get a visual on that. So I teach clients as well, and my team normally does it, is get it on the whiteboard. Yes, the CRM's there to help, but there's something to say that when you're visually looking at all your hot leads every day, you're not going to miss anything. Because when I come to talk to any client, you should be able to say, well, what's the deal flow looking like? And right away you're going, well, I got 10 things on my board right now that could swing any time to get contracts. Okay, we know that 90% of the chance is going to be on that board into close. Makes sense?
Easy to fall through the cracks in the system. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely, especially when you get hectic and you start getting hundreds and hundreds and then thousands of leads in there. When you're running 10, it's pretty easy, but as that builds. So I think you've got a lot of stuff really that you've put in place and you're working on really well. I like the VA. He's setting appointments. Great. You're doing that. You're then linking that back, and then he will then set the next appointment, and you're running calendars on that. No problem. We talked about the automation, about edging that in. You're using one tab, but again, one way would be is to just simplify it again and make some simple tabs for you. So you understand exactly what it's doing because you've put it together yourself. And then really it's repetition, right? And once you have that foundation built, it's pretty simple. You just have to do more, right? If you need more phone calls, you need to do more marketing. If you want to make more offers, you need to talk to more people. If you want to do more follow-up, then the other three needs to be happening, right? And you're exactly right. As soon as you get 30 days out, you will then be on a cycle where there's more leads that start to come in. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I'm starting to see that as well.
Yeah, and you'll get busier. I spoke to a client today and he's like, well, yeah, I was doing great when all my new stuff was coming in, but now the follow-up comes in. It's now like, oh, now I've got to do that and this, and that will start to, pile up if you don't stay ahead of it. Absolutely. So what other things? Anything else?
I guess I got a couple questions maybe for, efficiency purposes. Do you typically have your VAs, because I know your VAs mainly do your marketing, right? Do you have them text and then call, or kind of what is the most efficient way to kind of push that new data in and then turn it into a lead at that point?
Okay, good question. Again, depending on how many leads you want on a day is important to understand, right? Because some people will just start with one marketing. What I look at is that if you're going to spend money, let's say an absentee list, okay, and we're going to do a skip trace on it, and you're going to cold call on it, right? You've already paid for that data and you have that data. So what we do is we will cold call in the auto dialer, right? And then we will bring positive responses over to the CRM. And then we'll also text the list as well in batch, okay, in batch leads IO. If anyone watching this, if you want 5,000 free records, go to batchleads.io/Gavin. You can get 5,000 free records. Then you can text in there. And then any positive responses, I then move to the CRM, right? So you're doing it in REI, which makes sense and you can do. you shouldn't be really probably sending any more than 150 texts using that software. If you use something like batch, you can definitely do more. So if you have 1,000 records that you've skip traced, what we do now, instead of calling them, the way we used to do it was I'd call 3 times. Anything that was left, let's say we started with 1,000, there was 300 that we couldn't reach, right? We bring them out and then we text them, right? Okay. So that's how we used to do it. Now what we do is, because we need more leads, is that I just say, okay, we're going to get a few duplicates, not a big deal. So we text everyone and call everyone at the same time.
Okay.
Right. And then bring leads in. You'll get a couple of duplicates. But what's amazing, Eddie, is we could take 10 people, right? And we could call everyone, we could text everyone, and we could send mail to everyone, and we'd only get a couple of duplicates.
Okay.
And the reason being is that everyone will work, their mind works differently to marketing, right? I will not respond to a text message like that. I will not call you off a postcard, but I will answer my phone.
Okay.
Even if it says spam, I'll answer it. It's just me. I don't. People are, I don't know the number. I'm like, well, I don't know the number, but I want to find out who it is. I can always put the phone down, right? That's just the way I work. But other people will do text message, and other people will do none of them, and they'll call you. So that my point is that we'll only create a couple of texting. So of duplicates. So what you can do, to your point, is call them. If your VA is using REI Simple, I would call them. They didn't answer, immediately send the text message.
Yeah, that's what they're doing now.
So for you, that's what I would do. Until you grow it where you need to be doing more bulk, then you need to probably look at third-party systems to then bring it back into the CRM, because they will be able to handle more bulk.
Okay. So at scale, at volume, you believe in having a pre-CRM basically that's generating, that's calling, texting, things of that nature. And then at that point, use REI Simple as a CRM.
Right. That's how I do it now. But again, everyone's business. So it doesn't have to be like that. You can do it all inside of REI Simple. But again, depending on how much volume you want to do, then yeah, just think of it about a lead gen, right? You have an auto dialer as a lead gen. You've got a texting software as a lead gen. And then you bring all positive responses into your CRM. And then you work it as a CRM, doing your auto responders, your calls from it, your texts from it, and all them things, all your calendars and tasks and everything that is done in there. Yes.
Okay. So you're really not having to worry about a record versus a lead.
Correct. I'm interested in leads. I want as many records as I can get, and I want to turn them in as many positive leads as I can and bring them into the CRM. So everything in my CRM is a lead. It's not a record. Does that make sense?
I'm sorry. That cut out, so I was not able to hear your response. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the way that I have it is that I have all my records outside of the CRM. Everything in my CRM is a lead. Okay. Yep. But what you have is you have records in your CRM and you're turning them into leads, which is fine. I'm just saying, on a scalable, doing it on bulk, you might have to look outside of it.
Okay. Absolutely. Definitely appreciate that. And I've heard of that and seen that work, when I worked for that wholesaler, and we were doing, probably, a couple thousand text messages at least a day. Exactly. And we had, 3 or 4 or 5 cold callers calling as well. And he had these various systems. I just, they're kind of expensive to be starting out with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. And that's where you have to get, you got to start somewhere. And then when you scale, you can transition and understand why you're doing it, right? So you're on the right track in what you're doing. I'm not saying you need to change, but eventually, again, to hit the volume that you're going to want to do, that's when you need to be looking at it.
Absolutely. Awesome.
All right. Awesome, bud. Well, I appreciate it. Good call. Anything else?
No, that would really be the main kind of sticking points, and I'm sure once I get that down, the next stage, there'll be something else, you know.
There always is. There always is. Okay. But keep going. You're doing a great job. Just make sure, again, and everyone listening, you've got to be on the phone, right? If you're not on the phone, you're not making money. If you're not making offers, you're not making money. If you're not following up, you're not making money. Them things have got to be done consistently to get the results.
Awesome.
All right, bud. Well, I appreciate it. I'll see you as we are recording this on the call tomorrow, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Appreciate
All right.
it.
Appreciate you. Thanks, bud. Bye-bye.